place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, March 28th, 2025, and this is episode 1022 of Living Free in Tennessee. And did you see how well I said my tagline on the podcast I've been doing since 2016? Yep. I got some feedback about the Wednesday show that we did, which was basically the first edition of the Living Free podcast, with a new tagline just for that day. And it took me 3 or 4 times, I don't even know, to actually get my introduction. And then I fully had intended to edit that out of the audio version, but then I forgot, and then it went out, and then hilarity ensued in email. So thank you guys for sending me all those emails. It was funny. And I was like, at this point, we'll just leave that there as a piece of Living Free podcast history. But I've got this tagline down because I've been saying it for almost 10 years now. So that is where we are at today. And on the live stream, folks, I want to welcome Packrat, DFW, Beth Emily, and I think somebody talked to me really, really early on here. Debbie is here from Texas. I've been doing my best to hop on these live streams a little early and be able to chat while I'm setting stuff up and getting all the announcements out. So that's been part of the fun. Of course, if you want to ask me a question or comment, just be sure to put the word question or comment in all caps. And be sure to like and share this episode. Could you close the door? And, Tactical was raised in a barn, by the way. We've just discovered that. You can talk. They'll hear you.
I know.
I have a really creaky screen door that I'm hoping to decreakify soon. I was on the phone with my dad. He's like, "Oh, it's one of your sheep." I'm like, "No, it's my screen door." So Tactical's doing his usual thing where he sneaks in late and doesn't talk much at first because he wants to see how many minutes he can go without saying anything. But we've already gotten him to say something, so we've already broken that.
Well, it's more I'll procrastinate on sitting down while you go through the intro.
Why is that? So your back doesn't hurt later?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured out, yesterday I drove to Camden and back to see John Willis at Special Operations Equipment, and driving like this for that many hours, the back between my shoulder blades was really sore. And then if I sit hunched over the computer like that, same thing happens. So I made myself, I didn't want to, after driving all day, I did not want to get in the pool and go for swimming, but I did. And then by the time I was done with that, I was like, oh, I feel so much better. And then it does have jets. So the water's 85 degrees. So it's, not hot like a hot tub. But I was like, oh, I'm going to let the jets go. And I had all of the power going through the 2 jets on that part of my shoulders. And it was hitting so hard that I was floating. And I had to figure out how to hold myself so that would happen. But that really helped loosen things up. So a hidden benefit of the swim spa.
Yeah.
Are you going to try it?
Probably not.
Yeah, he won't actually put his redneck butt into a pool, I don't think, voluntarily. Only voluntarily if you're saving somebody drowning, right?
Sure.
Hey, welcome to the live stream, Kiri. Okay, so our featured event today, speaking of Kiri, is the Self-Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee, which is October 4th and 5th. Birdsong Marina called me this week and said there's some confusion about the date. Some people think it's the 5th and 6th. Some people think it's the 4th and 5th. It's the 4th and 5th, which is a Saturday and Sunday in October. And the reason there was some confusion is that there was one relic on the website from last year when it was October 5th and 6th. But, every year, weekend days change.
Yeah.
So, and then when I set up the contract with Birdsong, we had the wrong date in there, actually. So we fixed that. And if you call them and try to book your place for the 5th and 6th, she's going to tell you that you really probably want to be there the 4th. And people have been booking cabins and campsites because you can get RV sites at Birdsong Marina. And tickets are up at selfreliancefestival.com. We're rolling out another speaker today. I'm just waiting for him to answer his 2 zany questions. And if he doesn't by the end of the day, I'm rolling him out with unanswered zany questions, and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a pretty fun freedom talk from somebody that y'all are going to love at Self-Reliance Festival. I've been having fun rolling out speakers instead of all at once, a few at a time, because it gives us a chance to like really drill down on what their topic's about.
Yeah.
And then, ask them those questions. It gives people a chance to like talk about that particular speaker. Of course, Brooke Whipple will be there. And I've been actually going back and watching a lot of stuff on her YouTube channel. And she did an interview with a guy who built an off-grid cabin, like slowly over time on a hunting property. And some of his ideas were pretty cool. And the one thing I took away that we can use here, where I was cooking and listening, and I'm like, wait, I got to back that up and look at how he did that, is he has a metal panel in his outhouse with the toilet paper roll dispenser attached to it, so mice can't crawl up the wood and chew on the teepee. And I was like, well, that's clever.
Yeah.
And so it was just like that wavy metal stuff.
Yeah.
So we may want to like put that, like retrofit the outhouses here with just floor to ceiling metal corrugated on the side where the teepee holders are, so they can't drop down on it either.
Might actually have a piece of stainless that would work for that.
You can't use my stainless backsplash for it.
No.
I have a stainless backsplash that's supposed to go behind my stove, and it's not there. So anyway, selfreliancefestival.com for tickets. Also, I want to thank two sponsors. The first one's John Pugliano of investablewealth.com. He does a great podcast called the Wealth Setting Podcast. You should totally check it out, especially now because there's a lot of headlines about how the economy is being ruined and tariffs and this and that. And he cuts through the noise, gets us from being Chicken Little, running around like a chicken with our heads cut off. Actually, Chicken Little was the one who didn't panic. Who panicked?
Oh.
I don't know. The Chicken Little story. You don't know that story?
No.
Hopefully somebody in the comments can set me straight. But anyway, helps calm us down and make better decisions. And if you've never really thought about investing, it's great to bone up on that topic, because I fully expect you to create wealth in your own life and be faced with the next decision. What do I do with all this savings? So check it out at the Wealth Studying Podcast at investablewealth.com. Just go there, podcast in the upper navigation, and you can check out lots of great episodes. His early episodes talk about his basic principles of investing. And that's a really good place to start, especially if you're new to the topic. Our second sponsor of today's show is How I Bag My Coffee. And I did get I am emanating roasted coffee smell from every pore in my body and every hair on my head, because I got all the morning roasting done before this podcast. I was like trying to bang it out before we sat down here, because I really wanted the orders to go out in the mail before the mailman come, and he's probably going to come in the middle of this podcast. So
probably.
I put my bags, they are not Mylar bags, but they are plastic with a special coating inside them, and they are sort of a metallic coating, so maybe it is Mylar in there. I don't know. I never thought about it. It's not called Mylar when I order it. So that's made by Discount Mylar Bags. And Toby over at Discount Mylar Bags, if you support that company, you support a company that's a family-owned business that enabled Toby to retire from procurement at the Dollar General. And at the Dollar General, he learned how to source things in bulk and pass on the savings to you. And then he built his own business sort of more in the prepper field, Discount Mylar Bags, where you can get all sorts of Mylar, O2 absorbers, food storage solutions, and food preservation solutions. And he's got a good collection of articles about his philosophy on how to store food for a family in a way that's useful in an actual crisis, rather than storing as much food in as big of a container as possible because you're feeding the neighborhood because of zombies. So I love it. Check them out, discountmylarbags.com. The Ellenders have made it today. Hello, Ellenders. Good to see you. I'm pretty sure, didn't you guys win one of our giveaways? Anyway, I think that was who won. They won a really nice giveaway. We should do another giveaway. What should we give away?
No idea.
No, we could give away coffee. What else? I could give away well-stored 5-gallon buckets of wheat we're never going to use. I stored wheat. I stored a year's worth of wheat based on what I would grind and bake into bread. And then I upped that to 2 years. And then I stopped eating bread. And now I use about maybe a quart jar of wheat berries every year.
Yeah.
And I grind them. I got rid of all the grinders. I had a stone grinder. You brought a grinder in. I was grinding flour and mailing it to Mom when they couldn't get flour in California in 2020. And I'm like, why do I have this stupid wheat grinder that's taking up all this space? And I don't even eat bread. So instead, I sold my Ninja blender. I sold that. And then, well, actually, you sold that because you got the money for that. And then I got a what is that thing called? Vitamix. The Vitamix blender, which you can also grind flour with. Because if you're just doing little amounts, then you don't really need a big old grinder. So every so often I make a loaf of bread once a year. Did you know that?
No.
Usually I make it at Thanksgiving. This Thanksgiving I make cornbread instead out of corn.
Okay.
So I didn't even need it for that. Anyway, Packer says Chicken Little, Henny Penny in Europe is indeed the central character who believed the sky was falling. Okay, so I was right. Thank you. I haven't read Chicken Little in a long time, and I totally knew the name and then forgot what the story was about. So Chicken's running around saying the sky is falling.
So he's a Democrat.
Yeah. To help out a new store, a Tactical. Oh, Debbie says you could give away a weekend of you and Tactical to help a new homesteader set up their place.
As long as they're close.
Yeah. It's easier to get me to go further from the homestead than him.
Yeah.
And that's because he won't fly and he won't drive far. I think he'd only fly in an emergency. Am I correct?
Pretty much. If
Yeah.
I have to get on a plane now, I don't.
Yeah. I get on
Of course,
planes.
the only
That's
reason
not a bad idea. Like, we could figure out how to virtually do that. I actually am.
Yeah.
Somebody did call me for a consult recently, and they're going to be getting an email from me next week about that.
Yeah.
And I actually think we need to do a virtual meeting first. So,
I mean, that's always a good place to
well,
start.
and I looked at everything, and I was like, I feel like until we answer some basic questions, me physically being there or you physically being there is a waste of their money. And so why waste money? Let's figure out the bigger picture questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should do a total workshop on that. Like just guiding people through questions they should ask themselves.
Yeah. We might see if he wants to do that online.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. Debbie's a couple hours away from me, south of you. Are you not in Texas anymore? Okay.
Yeah, because Texas is a lot further than a couple
I mean,
hours.
I get to Texas all the time because one of my friends lives there. Two of my friends live there. Probably more than two of my friends live there, but two who I visit. Three of my friends live there. Should we move to Texas? We could move the whole homestead to Texas.
No.
Are you sure? You don't like it cold. It's hotter in Texas. We've only put like 18 years of my life into my homestead, and then I don't know how many years of your life you've put into my homestead.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
there's been a lot.
6, 7, 2019. Almost 6 years.
Yeah.
Are we done yet?
Not even
So that's what we're
close.
going to talk about today. Are we done yet? We're actually going to talk about spring on the homestead, but I want to start with fencing posts.
Okay.
So Tactical drives around with his hair going in multiple directions because he's been on the four-wheelers whipping around with these posts that are at a right angle made out of fiberglass.
Yeah.
And I always thought they were just like a square corner, and it turns out they're T-shaped. And I didn't find that out until like 2 days ago when Ken Esch was here asking Tactical about those posts. So tell us about the fiberglass posts. Why do you use them? How are they used best? And what modifications do you make? And how long did it take you to figure them out?
I mean, figuring them out wasn't that much of an issue. Like, it's basically a T-post made out of fiberglass with pre-drilled holes to run the wire through. So the actual T-post is the insulator. And like any not ceramic insulators that I've had, even the really good ones still break, especially on T-post. Those don't last as long. So having just a fiberglass post is nice. Of course, here with the rocks, I try to avoid having to drive post at all. So I haven't used a whole lot of these. And the places that I have used them were like, a place where there was a long distance between trees, and like I managed to get a post into the ground for that one little spot. But
Isn't there a
now,
row of them along the road?
now there is,
Yeah.
which I talked to the neighbor over there and was like, hey, do you care if I rip that old fence out, which is basically doing nothing, and replace it, because it won't be that much money. It ups our security, blah, blah, blah. And so I think I sank like 5 or 6 of those along there, and then a couple of trees, and strung 4 wires through that. And the only thing I don't like about the post is the way that they cut the end that you drive into the ground, because they just cut 2 of the sides. And like, if you're somewhere with good soil, that doesn't really matter. But for here, it's like I need that other end, the other side cut. So I usually just, like, I know in a couple of days I'm gonna put 4 of those posts in. So when I'm sitting there at night, I'll grab 2 of them and take a hacksaw and just slice the other end off. And there's been a couple of times where it's like I hit a rock and it kind of slid off of the rock and moved a little bit. Who cares? And just kept going. And then there's a couple of times I think I actually pushed a rock out of the way because the soil was good enough, like down by the pond or by the watercress patch.
How is the
So
watercress doing? I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't even looked.
Okay.
Every time I've been, like, I just replaced the whole fence over there, and I didn't even look at it because my brain was wrapped around how I was doing the fencing.
So you couldn't see the forest for the trees?
I didn't see anything aside from where I was putting posts and how I was running wire.
Yeah, I looked last week and there was no hint of watercress coming up. And this time of year, I like my watercress salads, and we're not getting any. And actually, this time of year, we're usually getting some. And I'm supposed to make watercress soup for the spring workshop. And without watercress, that ain't happening. So I think all that extra cold really beat it back this year. And I'll have to go look in the aquaponics system to see how my aquaponics watercress is doing. And then I'll go back to the pond and think about, like, did it get washed out with all the rain we had? And I need to take some from the aquaponics system and throw it there. But I've been here 18 years, and the past 17 years, and through the 2020 flooding, it did not get washed out. So I would be surprised if it was washed out. But you never know. But I'm hankering for some watercress salad.
Yeah, it'll probably start up relatively soon.
Yeah, it's definitely warm out there today.
Yeah.
The official hairstyle of the summer homesteader has come up, where you just have a messy bun on your head all the time. That's why my hair is all shaggy looking, because it was in a bun. Also, I don't like to put hair in coffee, so I do put it in a bun before I go into the roasting shack. That's part of the deal. Okay, how did it go moving the Rams last week?
Yeah, about that.
How'd it go?
They moved to the next paddock.
Yeah, we haven't moved them yet. We really need to. Otherwise, we're going to end up in a world of fall babies, which we don't really want.
Yeah, they're definitely, I don't think they're big enough to
Yeah, we didn't think that last time either.
get to any of the U's, but they're definitely with each other.
Okay, so they need to
move soon.
Yeah. Little sheep is due. The other sheep is due sometime between April 1st and April 20th. So I've been keeping an eye on them, and I need to go look at her again today. And then I just heard morels are starting to pop in nearby counties, which means the morels might be starting to pop here. And last year we found you found actually a decent amount. I found like 3.
Yeah.
But that means you need to look for them.
Yeah, I looked the other day and saw absolutely nothing, so I need to make a pass through a couple of spots again.
Yeah.
But
I was over there. I was out there yesterday up in that one spot.
Yeah.
But like last year was also a really good morel year, I think, because we found them here. You found them over at the pasture. Nighthawk found some behind his house in the woods.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So today I was supposed to go straight from the show to a meeting in town, and that got canceled. Which I was like, well, bummer, because I wanted to get that done, but also, yay, I don't need to drive to Smithville today. And then that means I don't have to like levitate from this show straight out the door,
Yeah.
which means I can take the dogs on a trek through the leaves up in the hills.
Yeah.
And so there's a better chance of me finding morels in that situation than just on the road or you know wherever else, straight up to the upper ruin and back on the road to the upper ruin. I've never seen morels there my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there used to be, like, based on what the neighbor told me, the property next door, he used to find morels all the time, and then he stopped finding them, and he figured it was because he kept picking them. But then everybody else says if you pick them, especially if you carry them in a mesh bag, they get their spores everywhere, and that helps spread them.
Yeah, I would guess it's probably more wooded over there now than it used to be.
Yeah, that is true. Although he did selectively cut out the poplar. No, the ash. It was the ash. Because there was an ash vine borer coming through, or an ash tree borer. Is there a dog out there?
One of yours is out. The little one's
Oh, the
out.
little one. Okay. I saw what looked like a dog. It's okay. I just was making sure there wasn't a random new dog on the property. So next, let's talk about tomorrow. We have a GSD weekend. It starts at 9:00 and we've changed the project. So we don't have a ton of people coming based on RSVPs. So I'm cooking for like 6 people. And if you were planning to come and never let me know, then I'm cooking for 6 people. And you should let me know at livingfreeintennessee.com. But we are planning we were going to build a deck for the outhouse. And instead we decided to rotate the outhouse 90 degrees because it needs to be re-leveled anyway. Re-level it. And that's like first priority of project. Nighthawk plans to start milling the chestnut tree in the yard so we can get it out of the yard. And then we have a bunch of other, like we're going to go to the dump. And also I can start moving back into the prepper pantry. So we might start doing that here. Saturday is supposed to be nice. It might start raining Sunday. So it is an overnight if you want to stay overnight and camp. And Saturday, if it's raining and there is still energy around doing the GSD with whoever's still here, I think we'll prioritize setting up the classroom and hanging the presentation TV in the classroom space next door because it's inside that outside. And then we'll get it done. So often what happens at GSD weekends is we do a lot of different things. With a crew of 6 people, it'll be fewer things.
Yeah.
We might at some point divide into 2 pods of people, but with 6 people, we can kind of do one thing at a time. And I think we need every hand we can get on rotating that building 90 degrees.
Yeah. We'll see how that ends up.
Yeah, well, something needs to be done. So hopefully if that doesn't get done, then we need to build a deck.
Something will happen with it.
Yeah. That's my biggest point of tension right now is that. And I also have to get this bathroom done before my family arrives.
Okay.
Yeah. So he looks shifty-eyed about that. Why do you look shifty-eyed about that?
It's the first I'm hearing about the fact that it needs to be done before your family gets here.
That's not true. We talked about it 2 weeks ago.
I have no recollection of that.
Yeah.
I remember
it's not the first you're hearing about it. It's the first you're remembering hearing about it.
I remember you saying you wanted to paint in there.
No, we need to get it done and the door hung and the toilet in so that there's at least a backup toilet with that many people in my house. 6 people, 1 toilet. No, not good.
Those outhouses?
6 people, 1 toilet. Not good. Needs to be done by the workshop anyway. Might as well get it done by the time the family's here. So we have a lot of things to do. I am getting the prepper. So let's do the prepper pantry update. How's that going?
It's moving.
It's moving. He's never excited about anything, just so you guys know.
I'm still in hyper-focus mode with other stuff.
Can you unfocus for this discussion? Because we're talking about lots of different things. What are you hyper-focused on?
Right now, fencing and sheep.
Okay. Well, there's no fencing or sheep in this house at this time.
Yeah, but okay.
Yeah, but Kay,
Okay.
aren't you excited to see the prepper pantry coming together the way it is?
I'm excited to see lots of things coming together.
Okay. We got the wood paneling up. By we, I mean Ryan Steva. And there's one piece left to put up that requires some adjustment of plumbing, apparently.
Yeah, plumbing and electrical stuff.
So that needs to get done. But with what's up now, I can finish sealing the floor. Freezers are almost where they go, and we can get the freezers where they go all the way and start putting shelves along one wall, which will not interfere with where the panel needs to go up. So that's big time progress for me, because that means I can finally start putting things that are all over my house away on shelves where they go. And as much as I wanted to have custom shelves made, we're not doing custom shelves. I already have like those wireframe shelves in existence, and they will fit in there. They were originally purchased to go in there, and then I was like, well, actually, we could do this custom thing with bins that pull out, and then other custom shelves for other storage purposes. And that's a great vision that will happen someday, but I'm going to love the one I'm with and use the shelves I have and get that going so that my pantry is functional again, because I've really felt disconnected from knowing, like, from organized in the pantry since we ripped that roof off, basically. So it's always been like, where is and I can't find and to some extent I've made it a little better because I moved all of the things that were out under the carport up over my door. But, so I have a riddle for you, Tactical.
Okay.
The riddle is this. Why would the door that needs to be painted for my bathroom that's in the entryway have gotten all red, leaving a stain on the floor with a step stool in the way, and I wasn't there?
Huh?
You don't remember when that had red all over it and there was a dirty floor?
I remember.
What happened?
Lost on the you weren't there part because you were totally there.
Oh, it's getting ready to leave. Also, your mic's pointed the wrong way. It's pointed away from your mouth. Yeah. What happened?
You dropped something, which means you were there.
I didn't drop anything, actually. So because I'm storing stuff on the shelf above my wall, and because sometimes there's a nail that sticks up, sometimes the jars are like tippy. There's like these little teeny light bulbs up there that aren't hooked up to anything. And I was getting a jar of barbecue sauce, and halfway down the shelf, which shook a little bit, a salsa jar jumped off the shelf, hit the door, hit the concrete floor. I'm not wearing shoes. So then I'm on the ladder, no shoes, going, where can I step without cutting my foot on salsa-laden broken mason jar? Not the best place to store jars in that kind of a scenario, just saying. And so I creep down, I get it semi-cleaned up, but I had to go to choir. That was Monday. I had to go to choir. And so I cleaned it up quickly and like carefully picked up the jar so I wouldn't cut my hand. And the jar wasn't broken. It's just the lid had come off.
I thought you actually dropped it.
No. Yeah, no, that was all like, I was like, maybe it is time to get up there with a grinder, cut those nails off, and get the rest of the light bulbs out. Because they cause problems.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was fun. And that's why I'm so excited to have shelves back in the prepper pantry where I can store stuff not up there. Not breakable and up there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be super exciting. Wild mushroom flower is blooming. Did you see that?
Is that the white one?
It's the yellow one.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so they're mostly on the roadside, and in the last 4 days, they've started blooming, which means we can have them in our salads. I don't have any wild mustard growing on my property, is the issue. And I've tried to get it established here, but it sort of like doesn't establish. It does not like it here.
You said wild mustard.
Yeah, what were you thinking?
I thought you said mushroom.
No, mustard.
I think that grows where it's overgrazed.
Well, it's not overgrazed here.
Which
But
is
this soil
probably why
isn't this soil isn't great.
well, I think it's probably better than where wild mustard likes to grow.
Yeah, it used to grow between the two swales, but it stopped growing there. Now we just have a lot of dead nettle, which is also good on salads if you get it young enough, but it's not young enough. So I picked some today and fed it to the rabbits.
Okay.
And there's probably chickweed somewhere. I just haven't gone looking for it. Hello, Red Flyer Media. Welcome to the live stream. So tell us about the four-wheeler.
Oh, I finally got it put back together again.
I drove it once.
Yeah. And it was still, I could hear the CV axle clunking on occasion. And so I got to poking around and finally found a spot where I could put a straight edge and was like, yep, the frame is actually bent.
So he bought a bent four-wheeler.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell, like, even with it right now, like, there's some mounting brackets that were a little banged up, and I kind of beat them back into place. Not that big of a deal, but like the other part that's bent is like, as hard as I look at it, it's like now that I actually have a straight edge, a spot where I could put the straight edge on, I can kind of see how it's arched a little bit, but it's not like you could tell just by looking at it.
So if anybody has a frame for a Honda 300 1995,
yeah, I'm
four-wheeler, four-wheel drive, let him know if you have one for sale.
Yeah, I think I found a scrapyard an hour and a half away that probably has one.
Yeah, there was somebody who had them posted on Facebook, like that specific four-wheeler, different years, different models, and there were like 100 different frames.
Yeah.
So and he was like, just ask me if I have yours.
Yeah.
You should see if he'll trade that other one.
I mean, I might.
Yeah. We have one for sale, or you could trade it, and even if he wants more money, whatever.
Yeah.
It might bring the cost down.
But yeah, I'm still like, I've had my eye on Facebook Marketplace and OSN to see what all pops up, but I mean, it's still, at this point, it is drivable and I can still use it. It's just going to cause the CV axles to go out prematurely. So I actually took it up, I guess it was yesterday, and was working on one of the steeper parts of the hill, and it was everything that I hoped for. I actually started to turn a little bit too late in one spot and was like, I'm now pointed down the hill, but about to run over a post. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try it. Popped it in reverse. And this is a spot where with the two-wheel drive four-wheeler, it's hit or miss to whether I can actually get up this one spot. Now I'm pointed down the hill, popped it in reverse, and actually managed to back up the hill going backwards. So it's like, yeah, that's pretty legit for that. And there was a couple of spots where just between everything, it's like, I couldn't stop going down the hill because there are places where it doesn't matter. There is no stop. You're either going up or you're going down. But it definitely made it a lot easier to work that section, especially like a lot of times what I'll do is just lay a pile of posts in my lap and drive up the hill and throw the post as much into the ground as I can, and then I'll walk the hill to actually step them all in, and that way I don't have to carry a pile of posts up the hill while I'm doing that.
Yep. So Lynn, who lives at base camp, has expressed interest in doing more homesteading stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to start like integrating her into sort of the routine and see how she likes it.
Okay.
I was thinking we could start with the ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk to her about that. This week I was like, "You want to start doing stuff?" She's like, "Yes, but not today." And then my whole week was a fold of not todays. It was my fault, not her fault. But that trip to Camden, I can't remember what happened Wednesday. Something happened Wednesday and Tuesday, and I was just like, "Okay." I feel like I drove a lot this week.
Yeah, I was in town Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think I was in town again. I was supposed to be in town Thursday, but that got canceled, and I was kind of glad.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my Friday cancellation today. I was like, actually not driving to Smithville this afternoon would be nice.
Yeah.
So we're having meatloaf at the GSD weekend because I'm not driving to Smithville to buy ribs.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I'll just go buy ribs. It'll be great. It'll be great. So what's your vision for four-wheelers on the homestead? How many do we need here? Ideally.
I would like to have 2 4-wheel drive four-wheelers, and then I've got the 2-wheel drive, which is my uncle bought that one brand new. And so I will probably keep that one for A, sentimental reasons, B, because it is a little more
Zippy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like
It is more zippy.
if you're just running up the road and
Were you on that one on the property next door? Down the road? Or the four-wheel one?
when
we went way up that hill?
Oh, I was on a 2-wheel drive.
Yeah, so you were on that one.
Yeah.
Dang. I was on a four-wheel drive and he got up further up the hill than I did. I was like, I don't think I should go over that particular rut.
Yeah, well, that was just...
And I'm glad I didn't.
That was experience, and that was, like... I stopped and looked at it before I even attempted, and then I got up to a certain point and was like, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I am not taking this four-wheeler any further up this.
When I came down that hill, you missed me falling off the four-wheeler on the way down.
Yeah, I almost...
And I got back on. I like started falling off, got back on, and I was like, that could have actually really hurt me.
Where I turned around at up towards the top, I could actually feel the rear uphill wheel starting to kind of come up a little bit. And so I stopped and was like, okay, I need to reevaluate this before I try to move. And so it took me a minute to get turned around.
Yeah.
But
so 2 4-wheel drives, one tricked out for livestock with everything on it, and one empty, right?
Yeah, my intent is to have one that I build custom cargo racks for that are a little more feasible for hanging reels off of, having probably like a 12-volt water pump and an inverter and stuff like that mounted underneath, so that if we need to, I don't know, run a skill saw or something in the pasture for whatever random reason, you can just take the four-wheeler up there and plug it into an inverter. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what it'll end up being, but...
We should document you building that out when you're ready to start building that out, which I don't think you are yet because you don't have the four-wheeler where you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we can kind of talk about why.
Yeah.
Because this YouTube channel is going to change a bit. In the next month or so, I'm starting a second Living Free in Tennessee channel. And we'll transition for a while in live stream here, but I'm going to transition live streams to its own channel and then more of the how-to stuff here.
Yeah.
So that we have a better reach, basically. Because those of you who come all the time, and I appreciate it. But I was noticing that as YouTube gets older, we have less reach with our existing audience because I think people have told me it's just because you do too many different things on this channel. Yeah. From the live stream and the shorts and the how-to videos and blah 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 blah. Yeah. So we're starting to make that change too and setting the foundation for it. Yeah, Debbie says I'm a visual kind of person and how-to videos are a great idea. Yeah, and I have how-to videos. Like I put that mayonnaise video out this week. But it's not on YouTube right now. So I'm doing a mayonnaise series, and the reason it's not on this channel is it's on the Homegrown Cooking channel, and I didn't want to double up. So I could put it on this channel too, but I don't know what that does to YouTube. But yeah, if you go to Homegrown Cooking, which is really hard to find right now because there's only one video on it, and so YouTube thinks it's dumb. And the one video that's on it is the mayonnaise video. Or if you go to Facebook. So I will, oh yeah, so Debbie saw it. I'll be doing another mayonnaise video this week or next time I run out of mayonnaise, and we're going to make mayonnaise out of something else. Because my whole point with those is like everything you can make mayonnaise out of.
Yeah.
It took a minute, 37 seconds for me to make mayonnaise, which means I, in fact, have time to make mayonnaise. And it took me another minute to clean up after mayonnaise. Like I did make a mess, and I had to rinse everything off and like clean some stuff, but that took about another minute. So 2 minutes, 37 seconds, and you can make mayonnaise from like just a few ingredients. So 3 key ingredients and spices and flavorings. Yeah. So, and you like it when I make mayonnaise. You just don't know it. But most of the salad dressings I make have mayonnaise based because if Nighthawk comes over, he's allergic to dairy. And if I have a sour cream based salad dressing, then it would make him not happy. In fact, I actually have a kefir based salad dressing right now that he could not have. So, but usually I go mayonnaise based.
We can test it on him.
Yeah. So yesterday, as I said, I went to special operations equipment, and that's always kind of a challenge because like in past years, I left a little later and got back a little later, and I was like, I'm going to get my butt out the door. I had the car pre-packed the night before. I'm going to get up, take my shower, like do all the things, and then get my butt out the door and get there earlier. And I was like, I'll leave at 5. And I was like, no, that'll be right. Like they're not even open. They're like just opening by the time I get there. And then having somebody arrive like right when you're opening and trying to get the day started, not great.
Yeah.
So I was like, I actually kind of want to get there about 10. So I left at 7. And I sent the Willis's text saying, I'll be there between 10 and 11, depending on how the drive goes. Because always it's like stop and get gas or whatever. And I said, assuming my car doesn't break on the way there, because it was the maiden voyage of the Subaru on an actual trip that's any further than Cookeville.
Yeah.
So I was pretty confident after 6 weeks or a month or however long it's been that I've owned that car, of driving that car and fixing anything that was wrong with it, that it was going to be fine by this point. But I certainly wouldn't have wanted to commit to driving the car to Texas and back right now until I know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was the first trip of any distance. And I was like, worst case scenario, I'm calling AAA, getting a tow and telling them, never mind, I'll be out there next week or a different day with stuff in the truck, which I know won't strand me. So Skane's girl says, best car I ever owned was a Subaru. But I left and I drive by a takeout Chinese food place on the route. And so often what will happen is I've gone to SOE, I've hung out there for a little bit, and then I come back and then I'm too tired to even think about cooking dinner. So my pull the ripcord, like convenience food, is get Chinese takeout on the way home. Everybody likes it. It's ready to go when I get home. Or you cook something. Sometimes you would cook something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm looking for an ebook to listen to, like something that I can learn from. And I haven't chosen which one I want to listen to yet, but I have a credit to buy one with on a free trial of Audible. So if anybody's recommending any books, like send them to Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com. Anyway, I was like, well, I have all this time to think in the car. And I thought of some ideas for business, but also I was like, surely with 6+ hours of driving, I can figure out how to make a meal that's easy to cook. Everybody's going to like it. And I don't spend $50 on Chinese food, because then it's like I've already spent money on the food here. So based on what's there, and I've started compiling a list. My goal is to have this list to 100 items that you can make with ground meat. And it's not meat. It's not like beef or pork or chicken or whatever. It's things you can make with ground meat. And you can substitute in the meat. Like a hamburger could be a lamb burger, for example, or a ground chicken burger. Because I have a lot of ground beef and I have a lot of ground lamb. And so every meal we've had this week has been ground meat 100% of the time, except for the shrimp soup. And it's just because it's easy to use. I'm wanting to like put a good dent in that. Hello, Haas. Welcome to the live stream. We are all doing great here. Anyway, so I'm driving. And on that list, like my friends on the Bourbon channel had been brainstorming with me. AutoFab gave me a lot of good ideas. And one of the things he brought up is like, I'm reading that you can make keto. Oh, it has to be keto friendly. Or like shepherd's pie can be made like keto or not keto. So I don't have lasagna on the list yet, but I can do a keto friendly version of lasagna too. And I'll eventually get it there. I just have to think about, for that one, I have to think about, is it like zoodles or what's the thing that goes with it? Because I have multiple ways to make it. So he goes, I've heard you can make a crust out of ground beef for a pizza and then put pizza toppings on it. And he'd said that the day before, and I wrote it on the list. I'm like, oh, yeah, I do that. Sometimes I have pre-made beef pizza crusts in the freezer so that I can just bring them out when we're not doing a cauliflower crust. And so we've had that in the past. You've always liked those, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I have all this hard salami. I have olives. I have a cream sauce left over from doing Swedish meatballs this week. And it's kind of runny. It's not very thick because I didn't put thickener in it. And you can thicken it with egg yolk. But I like popped up Zello and I'm like, hey, T, if you're in my house, take out, like 2 packages of ground beef because I want them defrosted when I get home. And I figured, I was like, okay, I can set myself up for success. So I made the crust with 2 pounds of ground beef, 2 teaspoons of salt, about a teaspoon of, no, probably more like a tablespoon of basil, a teaspoon of powdered garlic, and some pepper. And then I put 2 eggs in it. So it was pretty goopy, it's a little goopier than I usually make it, but it changed the mouthfeel of the crust from what I usually do. Because usually you don't put the eggs in it in most recipes. So then I laid it out flat with parchment paper under it, cooked it at 350 for 25 minutes, took it back out of the oven, and then Nighthawk was here for a while. So I didn't cook it while he was here because it was like I was talking to him. And then I put on it, I put that cream sauce, which kind of ran off the sides because I didn't thicken it because by the time Nighthawk left, I'm like, I'm not going to spend another 10 minutes thickening this just to then put it back in the oven. I put whole olives on it. I didn't even cut them up. And they were the Kalamata olives. I put sliced up hard salami, and I had cooked some pork breakfast sausage.
Yeah.
So I put that on there, and then I put cheese on the whole thing, not a lot, and cooked it in the oven for another 10 minutes. And that was what was for dinner last night. Now, you couldn't pick it up and eat it. It was more like a pizza casserole, if you will. But what do you think of that one?
It was good. I mean, I think the sauce made it different than normal. But, I mean, that was definitely like, out of the ones I can remember, if you're going to make me pick one, that's the one I would want.
Yep. So it turned out delicious. And then, of course, because I was gone, he didn't eat all day.
I mean, I did eat. I just did not eat a lot.
He didn't eat like a proper meal. And so he almost polished the whole thing off. And today, instead of breakfast, we each had leftovers cold from the fridge. I'm pretty sure is what happened today.
Yeah, I grabbed the last piece of that.
No, you didn't. There was another hidden last piece.
Oh.
I had the last piece. Because I went in to grab the one you grabbed, which was my secret piece I had put off to the side. And you'd already eaten it. But there was a sour cream container next to it, which happened to have the other one in it.
Oh.
Yeah, so there were 2 pieces. So then we didn't eat breakfast. But that was a really good like homestead from scratch cooking meal that was easy to put together. And because I had olives on hand and I had hard salami on hand, just because I wanted the hard salami for just charcuterie stuff, it worked out really well. Haas says, I tried the cauliflower crust to make pizza and didn't like it. I really like cauliflower crust pizza, but I've never successfully made one homemade from cauliflower. And then I decided it's just like the whole purpose of cauliflower crust pizza is convenience. And on those days when it's just like, I want something reasonably healthy and I put my own stuff on it, but it's also been a long day. And so I feel like store cauliflower crusts work well for me. Skane's girl said you just grind the beef up. The beef was already ground. I used ground beef. So I just mixed the spices in and it was delicious. So it was not like strips of steak or anything. So I have a question for you. Process. So we're trying to develop a new process on the homestead. How's that sprouted sunflower process going? I made the system. You looked at me like I wasn't going to successfully make the system. I have successfully made the system. And I have successfully, consistently sprouted sunflowers.
To an extent.
I mean, there's some there. Are there some that you can use right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a backup set of some that you can use after those are done? Yeah.
The problem is it's not in my forefront.
Yeah.
So getting me to remember that it's there on Tuesday of next week because it's not available,
It's been available every day this week.
I don't remember it.
Yeah. So where we're running into problems is unless I notice that he's putting the ducks to bed and it reminds him, he doesn't feed it to the ducks. Although we could do a midday feeding of it to the ducks. And they would learn probably after 2 times of that happening when he says a certain call to come. Yeah. And I don't know which way is better with these, but I would like one more bucket in the bucket system so that it is every day. Because what it is right now is it's 1 day, 1 day, 1 day off. 1 day, 1 day, 1 day off if we remember to give them the sunflower seeds. But since we don't remember to give them the sunflower seeds every night, anytime he wants them, there are some right now.
Yeah, and if I'm going to get it into my routine, then it needs to be every single day.
Yeah, and that is the goal. But, yeah. But I need one more bucket, and I need to drill all those holes for the one more bucket if we're going to do that.
Okay.
But, yeah. And it's not where I want it yet because everything in my carport's in the way of where I want it. And that'll make it easier for me. Because I was going to put it by this hose spigot right over there. So it's just like water, done.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my plan. Skane's girl says, I'm addicted to cottage cheese egg wrap. It has the consistency of a flour tortilla. Skane's girl, do you make those from scratch? Because that sounds delicious. That actually sounds delicious. That sounds kind of like a chaffle, but with cottage cheese instead.
Skane's girl, email her the recipe for that.
Remember that funny thing that happened that we said we were going to talk about today?
Nope.
You don't?
No.
Neither do I. We've been talking for 4 days about what we had this conversation on Tuesday. We're like, Tactical's like, we need to say that on Homestead Happenings. I'm like, you're right. We will totally remember. Did we remember?
I knew I wasn't going to remember.
Something really funny happened this week on the Homestead that was also educational.
Y'all should laugh because it was funny.
It was totally funny. And I can't remember. I think it was livestock related.
It was either that or food.
I think it was livestock. I don't know. So I'll be better about taking notes as we go. I just didn't have my phone. I've been leaving my phone inside and off so I can't get interrupted on things. And I'm getting a lot more done because of that. But then I don't have my phone to write notes down in. So I'll have to figure out. I think because I'm upgrading to the above phone today. I'm going to take my SIM card out of this phone and put it in that phone. And then I'm not going to want to carry the above phone around because I don't want to break it on the Homestead and then I'm screwed. So I'll probably still carry this one around the Homestead that's the case is broken from being dropped and whatnot. And as long as I have Wi-Fi, I can communicate with you.
Yeah.
So that's fine. And it's better at doing video anyway. And then if I drop it, I'm not going to cry because it's not like the new phone just fell into the pond or something. It's actually all of them are waterproof, but you know what I mean. Fell off the 4-wheeler and got run over, which totally has happened to this phone once.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Homesteaders are hard on phones. Somebody needs to come out with a homestead-proof phone.
There's a number of companies that make pretty bulletproof phones, but from what I've heard about, most of them, they suck. The software sucks.
I just need the hardware to work and be able to put whatever I want
expensive.
on. Yeah, I did look at some grotesquely $2,500 phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind. I'll just keep breaking my $200 used phones because that's what I do. I get a $200 used phone. Except for the above phone is not bad. But I'm pretty excited to get all the way moved into that thing.
Yeah, I wish, like, I've got an old Kyocera Duraforce or something like that that is so old that you can no longer really. I think the phone still boots up, but you can't do anything on it.
Yeah, it doesn't talk to phone networks, probably.
But I mean, that thing, God knows what that phone's actually been through. Drop, kick, bounced off stuff, dropped in bilges.
Yep.
Yeah, I looked at the cat brand. I don't remember why I decided against it, but there was a reason I decided against it.
Half a cup cottage cheese, 1 egg, half a teaspoon baking powder, blend it, pour it on a greased parchment paper, bake for 15 minutes at 350. That's a half batch, I think, she said.
Huh.
And she's making it in a toaster oven. So probably for a whole cookie sheet is everything double.
Yeah.
So we could try that for sure. I'll give that a shot this week if I have a little extra like creative kitchen time. My creative kitchen time was used doing something this week that resulted in me trying to get Chat GPT to write the recipe exactly as I had handwritten it on my 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And that is I made feta cheese. And the reason I write the recipe the way I write it down on my piece of paper, which is in my little book that I use every time I need to actually refer to a recipe, is that I like to know before I'm making any kind of cheese, how long is it going to be that I can't access my kitchen sink? Because I have one sink in the kitchen, and when it has cheese being made in it, what happens is that I can't do dishes because I don't want to, even on the other sink, risk splashing the cheese and gross. That would be gross. So it pretty much puts my sink out of commission for a certain amount of time, whether it's mozzarella or feta or cheddar or Parmesan or any of the other cheeses I can make, because my sink is a double boiler with a sous vide in there for a lot of it. The stovetop cheeses, I don't, obviously. So the answer is that feta cheese will dominate my sink for 5 hours. And I had it all like rewritten because the old recipe I had just been like out and used as a recipe so many times, and like things dripped on it that it was just time. And I was like, wouldn't it be nice to have this digitized without me having to painstakingly add every stupid item on Canva or in Adobe? Nope. So I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, write it. ChatGPT was incapable of not editing my recipe and changing it. And it changed it in a way that would have made you make an unsuccessful cheese. But my creative time in the kitchen this week was taken up by making feta cheese for the spring workshop. And now it's in its drying phase. So it's got salt on the hunks of cheese. And I flip them every day, and a little bit more whey drains out of that every day. So it is fun. Yeah, Packrat says that was funny. Your duty cycle analysis of cheese making. Yeah, you know what? I probably will take the time to put it into Canva at some point, and or hire somebody to do it. We'll see. It depends. Like right now, I'm not hiring a lot of people to do things, but I do plan to have more of those recipes laid out for my cheese booklet, which is under development and no promise of a delivery this year on that. I'm trying to get, because my Cook With What You Have cookbook has another edition about ready to come out that includes food preservation. Cheese is in there, but I don't want to lay that book out in such a image heavy way. But having a downloadable printable actually makes a lot of sense. And then once I have the template in Canva, I can do multiple cheeses with this method. So that's the deal with that. How's the garden doing?
I don't know. That's your pet project.
Is that my pet project? When I met you, like we bonded over gardening because you were making things grow in Gitmo that couldn't grow in Gitmo.
I mean, I still do. I mean, I've got, what do I got? 6 oregano and 6 thyme cuttings that I just got rooted, so they're outside weathering off right now.
Last year when we decided to move the garden, I knew this was going to happen, but I didn't know this was going to happen so starkly. My garden is way too small.
Well,
I'm like,
it's not done
I'm feeling, even with that other bed done, I'm like, my garden feels really small this year.
Yeah.
But the beds that are there and up are doing well. One of them doesn't have enough biochar in it, and so it's not holding water as much as I'd like it to. And having biochar integrated into a raised bed is great because raised beds they dry out more than if you just have it in the ground because all the sides are exposed to wind and sun and all of that stuff. And I really notice it on bed number 2 that it dries out.
Okay.
But lower down, it's okay. It has like wood chips lower down. So like all the plants where the root structures have developed to where they're not surface is great. But that is not a good bed for germinating things.
Yeah.
Because it just dries out unless you're over there constantly. And then the watering system I have built for that one isn't great because the soil doesn't retain the water. I actually think that watering rectangle I made would work better in bed 3 because I have more biochar in there. So we may move it and then put little sprinklers in bed 2.
Okay.
But I'm sad because I'm not going to grow as many green beans this year. I'm like so sad. I'm tempted to go back up to the old garden and like start planting things up there.
There's some other places that we can plant stuff. So
Yeah, but having a dyslexic like ADHD garden plan is not probably why we moved to the garden. The whole point was to have it somewhere that I go.
I mean, it's going to help because there's at least 2 more beds going in over there.
Yeah.
Plus, you've only got 3 up and running. There's a 4th that just needs to finish getting filled.
Yeah, and I think the next 2 that we put up are not going to be used this year. I think they're going to be set up for use in the fall or next year because I was thinking we could just make them compost piles, like compost in place.
Yeah, and so it's like, it feels small right now because it's not done.
Yeah. So we've got a prolapse harness on Stormy. I'm not 100% sure she was prolapsing because I didn't witness it, but I noticed that she was holding her tail in a way I've seen other sheep hold it. And she had dirt in her hoo-hoo, like leaves and stuff, which meant maybe her hoo-hoo was out at one point. Or maybe the ram's just gross. I don't know. But we put the prolapse harness on her on spec because I was like, it doesn't hurt to have a prolapse harness on if there's no prolapse, but having a prolapse go completely bad is much more difficult to work with than if everything's in place and you keep it in place. As a result, we have to keep an eye on her for pregnancy and delivery.
Yeah.
And we're in the window now. So it's a daily check required at this point. Tactical doesn't think she'll be due for another few weeks. And he's probably right. He's actually he's gotten pretty good at calling it on that. Except for that time that he didn't notice that Cloudy was pregnant and knew she was pregnant. He didn't realize she was ready to pop. Cloudy had 2 babies first, unexpectedly in December. And you were like, there's babies up here. You better come. And then you had them at the very top pasture where it was impossible to get to in December. Remember that?
Not really.
I remember. So you were gone for Christmas, and I'm like up there with the sheep, and I'm looking at Cloudy and one other, and it was Khaki, going, wow. I mean, they're not due for 2 more months, but they look like that other looks really well developed. And 5 days later, and then I meant to say something to you and forgot, like, hey, is there any possibility? And then you were like, there's babies up here. Yeah. That's how that was the whole beginning of our season of things being born 2 months earlier than we wanted them to be.
Yeah, it's starting to get to the point where it all kind of blends together.
Yeah, so like the sheep that are being born now are the sheep that are on the schedule we had intended for the sheep, which means 2 ewes are on cycle, and one of them wasn't supposed to get pregnant at all. Maybe both of them, I don't know. Because we also learned you don't put the ram in a paddock next to girls that you don't want him to just get out and make that happen.
Stormy was the one that jumped the paddock.
I know, but then he jumped the paddock too. Eventually, everybody jumped the paddock. Yeah. And everybody I've talked to who does sheep is like, yeah, you can't have them at the same property unless you have an actual fence between them.
I mean, it worked for a while having him in with whatever, we had 5 ewes in with him. But
Yeah.
then, like, Stormy skipped the fence.
Got pregnant that day, by the way, according to the veterinarian. That's what the vet. She's like, she was definitely pregnant then, because she got an ultrasound too.
Yeah, and
she's getting special treatment because we like her better.
Yeah,
basically, right?
I mean, she's a bottle baby, so
yeah. So this is what happens when you get a bottle baby, guys. You spend even more time and money on them.
Well, I mean,
yeah, Packrat says highly motivated, you'll find. Yes, they were highly motivated to get over that fence.
Yeah.
So now all the boys are going to be at my place while all the girls are going to be next door.
Yeah.
So.
But, I mean, yeah.
Are you going to say something? Or did you forget?
I've lost my
You lost your train of thought. Okay, cool. Sometimes that happens. It's okay to just admit that on the internet.
Well,
otherwise, on the audio, it's just like 30 seconds of silence.
It was there, and then
people listening are like, "Spit it out, Nicole. You know the word. I know you know the word. The word is elderberry." For like the first 2 years of this podcast, every time I tried to say elderberry, I could not come up. I was mixing up elderberry and mulberry, even though I absolutely know the difference between those two things. The one word would get in the way of the other word coming out, and I'd be like, they're nothing like each other. Why can't I think of these words? And then the first 2 years of the podcast was not live. I was audio recording. So I'd be like, pause, Google, elderberry. Okay, record, elderberry. That's how that went down. And then when I started doing live recordings of the show, that's when I was like, well, now everybody will see all the words I can't think of when it happens. And it's literally that there's a block. Like I was talking to Spirko about that because he was, he does it on his podcast too. And I'm like, well, good. I'm not the only one who's like, can't think of the word. And the rest of us are listening to the podcast screaming the word.
Yeah.
Because I literally will scream the word at Jack when he forgets the word.
Yeah, I mean, that happens to most people.
Yeah, it does.
At least sometimes.
Well, guys, if there's anything else you want to hear about, let us know in the comments. I've only got 1 or 2 more things to think about. Are you feeling really busy and overwhelmed right now?
Not that I'm busy and overwhelmed. It's always busy, but I mean, winter is officially over.
Is that good or bad?
I mean, it's good because, like, it's warm enough now that I can actually, like, make a ton of progress on doing something that, like, if I had tried to do what I did this morning during the winter, it would have taken me all day to do what I did in 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, it's...
Well, if you're not overwhelmed, should we add some more projects?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm trying to make progress on the projects that I already have planned.
Does that mean you don't want to build me a roadside stand so I can sell eggs and coffee at the roadside?
No, if it's not already on my mental schedule, then no, absolutely not.
I wonder how long it would take to build a roadside stand.
For me, 1 to 2 years.
I mean, but if you just worked on it, not how long with you not working on it.
I mean, Ken could build it in like 5 minutes.
He could build it in 2 hours for sure. Because it just needs to be like that wide and as long as this bar with a little roof over it and a shelf.
Okay.
You sure you don't want to take that on?
As soon as we get done, I'm going to finish fencing.
So here's my other question. Is there any reason I couldn't just build it out of the 2x4s Nighthawk hasn't taken off the property?
I don't know how good those are.
Okay. They kind of seem good.
Been laying there for months.
Packrat says, now you're just winding them up, Nicole. Do we have enough little pieces of roofing I could use?
I have no idea.
You don't?
I mean, you could salvage what's left off of that shed.
I was thinking of fixing that shed.
The only way to fix that shed is to take it apart and completely replace all the lumber.
Okay. Yeah, that one bys were not the right choice for that.
Well, no, it was the fact that the growth rings were like 6 inches apart.
I never saw a redneck so angry about lumber as I did in that moment.
That's like I even showed that to Steva and
Yeah.
was like, "Tell me that this looks normal," and he was like, "No, that is not." It was horrible.
But Cloudy was born in that, or she grew up in that. She wasn't born in it.
Okay.
But that was actually used as a shelter when Cloudy was born. Now it just sits on the side of the hill looking like it's falling apart.
That's because it fell apart.
It's like in the burn it in place status. So we don't have any like little squares of green roofing around?
I don't know.
I feel like if we have roofing, I might actually be able to get that done.
There's a few pieces down by the workshop, but I don't know what's down there.
I'll have to go
And
look.
I don't know what's actually salvageable.
Yeah, and I looked at this edge stuff you can put on the edge so that it doesn't cut people on accident. There's this like car something molding stuff that just sticks on. So you won't get mad at me if I make it, in other words.
Knock yourself
I
out.
would love to have a sign too on the road that says Holler Homestead.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Sure.
You need to do that in 2 years too?
Maybe.
Haas says, when I was at SRF, I drove around town and saw a lot of great side stands selling stuff. We don't have that here much in my area. Yeah, I just want to set up an honor system and put a little cooler with eggs when I'm, like I'm not going to have eggs for sale before the spring workshop because 100% of the eggs that we're not eating are going to be fed to people at the spring workshop. But after that, we actually like right now I have 4 dozen eggs that we haven't eaten this week. Yeah, from this week and half of last week. And I'm going to process those this weekend and get them scrambled and frozen for the workshop because that's a good start on eggs for the workshop. But I don't want them just sitting out, potentially going bad. So were the eggs on the counter 1 day or 2 days worth?
That was 2 days worth.
Yeah, so there were quite a bit of eggs, but I know that I didn't do all my kitchen stuff yesterday because of that trip. So
they're laying in the yard somewhere because I don't know how many eggs my dog ate last night.
Yeah, Skanes Girl says you need something like Hacks built for Rosie. Yeah, Rosie's stand is really cool. Hers is like a cart that pulls on. Oh, do we have an extra trailer anywhere?
No.
We don't? What happened to my little cart? Did you throw it away?
Cart?
My little metal one.
No idea what you're
Okay, yeah, I think we took it to the metal scrapper. I could buy a garden cart though and turn it into a roadside stand, and then you could like put it in the workshop in the winter.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I could just take the lumber in the backyard and build one in place, and it would molder eventually.
Literally dedicating no brain power to that.
How come you were walking away? Do you want me to finish the show?
I'm standing up.
Oh, he's standing up because his back hurts.
We've been going over an hour.
Yes, we've been going an hour and 13 minutes.
Yeah.
You came in at 7 minutes.
I was in here though.
Anyway, guys, that's the show for the week. If you like the show and want to support the work we're doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. 2, consider becoming a member. Head over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.